Hey everyone, this morning we are going to talk about Chiron in Virgo while I sit here and have my hot cup of coffee. Um, so, Chiron in Virgo, especially, is a very sensitive placement. And Chiron shows the area of your life or personality where you're especially sensitive and vulnerable. And so, yes, Virgo is an especially sensitive placement. Many people try to overcompensate in the area where Chiron sits, and there's a tendency to make up for the wound so that it isn't obvious to others. In this video, we're going to talk about how this wound shows itself, where does the wound come from, and how to heal from Chiron. Always a great idea to pull up your personal natal chart to find out where Chiron sits, in which house, and the aspects it makes to the other planets to get a more specific explanation to how Chiron affects you on your day-to-day. Just a brief history, Chiron was discovered in 1977. It makes it a relatively recent addition to the astrological canon, and as such, Chiron isn't used in traditional astrology, but it's becoming more common and accepted in the modern day practice. It's a small planetoid, and it's named after a Greek philosopher and healer who ironically couldn't heal himself. It's represented in astrology by a case symbol, and it shows that we have the key to unlocking some serious potential within ourselves. So if you have Chiron in Virgo, you probably feel that there is something fundamentally wrong with you, and this wound relates to your self-worth. You might feel a sense of uncleanliness, impurities, fragmented self, incomplete or bad in some way. You probably get the sense that some fundamental piece of you was made incorrectly. There's just something off. And as we know, Virgo stereotypically is all about some kind of strive for perfection. And so with having this placement, you just feel like something is a little bit off here. And sometimes you'll try to hide that Chiron in Virgo, that wound from the world. But you'll also feel that there's something wrong with you, and you'll always worry that others can see it. As we speak about Virgo and worrying kind of go hand in hand here. And your strive, subconsciously anyway, is to search for wholeness and satisfaction. And to get there, those with this placement usually try to fix themselves. But it's pretty difficult for you to find the true road to healing because of the placement. But you definitely will try, either with self-help books, YouTube research, anything like that. You'll always come up with some kind of solution, like a doctor trying to fix a problem with a patient, and you are the patient. So how does Chiron in your specific placement of Virgo show itself? And you probably try to achieve perfection because you want to fix whatever you feel is wrong with you. And you try to deal with the Chironic wound by changing things that you feel are wrong or bad about yourself. For example, someone with Chiron in Virgo might be really meticulous about their hair, their clothes, their looks. They might stay up on the latest fashions, and would be horrified to show up to an event dressed quote unquote wrong. That's just a superficial kind of example, but I hope you understand what I mean by that. And alternatively, someone with this placement might be perfectionistic about the way that they speak to others, and they might study social graces, learn easy conversation lines, but if they mess up even once, they feel like the world has crashed around them. I find that Chiron in Virgo can also manifest in like obsessive compulsive disorder, or alternatively as extreme messiness or disorganization. Sometimes an individual will swing back and forth between these extremes, or will struggle to integrate. Sort of like binge eating, I guess. Those that are on a diet will go so far with a healthy eating lifestyle, and then all of a sudden be like, well, I did really well, so I'm going to just, binge a little bit and go back. It's just like an extreme, either super messy or super binge eating, and then really perfectionist eating or perfectionist organization. You might be critical of others more so than other Chiron signs, but this is really because Chiron in Virgo creates a huge amount of self-criticism for themselves, and it's sort of projecting out into the world and onto others. And sometimes criticism of others is a self-defense mechanism if you have anxiety about judgments coming your way. This placement is very black and white. You probably see things as good or bad in your own mind, in your own scales of balance. And it can be hard for you to develop shades of gray in everyday life. Virgo in general is all about categorizing, dismantling, and taking something big and putting them in little boxes and categories. It is very black and white. And when you have this kind of wound, you're all about trying to place you're trying to place everything in a specific good category or bad category. I hope that makes sense to you. I feel like if you do have this placement, then it would. What you want to do is you want to look at the house that your Chiron sits in for more information in the aspects. Like, say, for example, with Chiron and Virgo in the 4th house, you're going to feel as though there was something fundamentally wrong with you as a child, because 4th house represents family. Now, you may still feel that sense of uneasiness inside whenever your inner child pokes his or her head out, but with Chiron in, let's say, the 7th house, you probably feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with the way that you have relationships. Again, house placement does add more specific indications of what the Chiron in Virgo is going to act like. You'll know when you figure out how your Chiron in Virgo manifests when you see this, so you shouldn't have to dig too deep to discover it, because your Chiron is something that has been present throughout your life, and that causes a continuous feeling of displeasure. And regardless of how Chiron in Virgo manifests, the idea is that you try to control your life in some area, and this is due out of fear. You might control the organization of your home, your relationships, your daily schedule, the way that you dress, look, or any other area. You'll eventually realize that control is just a facade, for it doesn't actually decrease the negative feelings that arise within you when your Chiron is activated. It's simply the best coping mechanism that you have. So where would this wound come from? Where did it all start? I find that much of the time people with this Chiron placement are born with some of these false beliefs about themselves. For example, you might have felt that there was something wrong with you from a very young age. But as you work your way through society and see other people's judgments towards you, these views are only cemented. Sometimes this wound is developed due to parental influences. Maybe your parents were extremely critical of you or treated you as though there was something fundamentally wrong with you. Of course, they didn't do it intentionally, but this is how you perceived it. Other individuals have perfectly loving parents who are no more critical than is necessary. So this isn't a rule. Again, it's a matter of perception. I don't believe that most parents, of course there's toxic and abusive ones out there, but I don't believe most parents do things intentionally to harm their children. However, they might have made a comment here or there about something where you then developed these types of wounds. I do find that people with this placement also saw their parents as really critical, even if it wasn't a reality. You're just again, Virgo wounds are very, very sensitive. Virgos in general are pretty sensitive, so they do tend to take criticism not that well, and especially as children, which then form these misconceptions about themselves and their realities. And these people are usually hypersensitive to slights, So they may have been crushed by the most subtle judgments projected from their parents. Like, say, you know, your hair was messed up in some kind of way, and your mom or dad said, oh, your hair's so messy. And you could either brush that off, or having this placement, you'd probably take that to heart and be like, oh my gosh, my hair is always so messy. I got it. And then just like hyper focus on that specific part about yourself and become this perfectionist about hair eventually. I don't know. That's just an example. But regardless of reality, I recommend that you work with the emotions that you felt and that you don't diminish your feelings. And how would you heal from this? Well, the thing about all Chiron signs is that you can never 100% heal them. Of course, we have free will with astrology, but just saying generally, you know, Chiron signs are there for a reason. It is a key, it is a symbol of wound, and you heal from them, but never 100%. It's a lifetime learning process. The Chiron sign you're born with will always be with you, and this is actually good because the wound is a part of who you are. There isn't any getting over the issue that Chiron reveals. Instead of trying to get rid of the wound, I recommend working to transmit the Chiron and Virgo wound to its highest potential by recognizing vulnerabilities and embracing them. Let go of control. You know that saying, let that SHIT go? I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I really like that saying because sometimes you just got to do that. I am a sun in Virgo, and I find that these things that I'm talking about kind of resonate with me on a whole, like on an egotistical level. So that motto of let that, you know, SHIT go is really helpful. And over time with Chiron and Virgo, you're probably going to come to realize that regardless of how hard you try, you never feel as though you adequately covered up the wound. It's always there deep inside. The goal is to integrate our persons into wholeness. There's already a perfect unity that exists within you, and no part of you is bad. But Chiron and Virgo makes you feel separated and fragmented. Instead of seeing some parts of yourself as good and others as bad, the healing path is to realize that every part of you has purpose and to fully accept all sides of yourself. It is only the illusion that says part of you is wrong. In fact, we all have parts of our personality and soul that contradict other parts, but these parts are all necessary to be our true selves. The goal is to love ourselves just as the good and the bad parts alike. Do you have this placement? Did this description resonate with you or someone you know? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening, as always. Bye now.